Good afternoon. So after this lunch, then we are going to discuss the swing threads and swing performance. So first of all, swing thread. If we see the swing thread, it is two or more yarns which are twisted together to make a composite structure. And to define the swing thread, we can say that a swing thread is a strong, smooth, evenly spun, hard twisted and elastic ply or cabled yarn which is treated by special finishing process. So this particular definition actually contains the most of the properties of the swing thread which are required in the swing thread and the construction of the swing thread. So it has to be strong and it has to be smooth and evenly spun so that it can easily pass through the needle eye and twisted and having some elasticity also. Then the construction part is it is ply or cabled yarn. And then after that, to increase the smoothness of the swing thread so that its contact with the needle eye, friction contact with the needle eye can be minimized, it is given the specialized finishing treatments. Lubrication is being done to make it resistant to abrasion in its passage through the eye of the needle and through the material during the seaming and stitching operation. So this is how the swing thread we can define. Then these swing threads, as we all know, they are used in all apparel industry, leather industry, in tea industry, firemen suits, in hospitals for surgery, rain gear, upholstered furniture. So in all these cases, the swing threads are required. And the basic requirements during the swing, what we need is the swayability. First of all is the swayability. That is the ability of the thread to produce a seam with minimum number of breakages and least damage to the thread and the fabric during the swing operation. So the ability of the swing thread to produce the seam with minimum number of breakages, which we discussed in the morning also, that there are various type of stresses which are involved and the swing thread gets damaged also during that process, and at the same time the temperature of the needle also damages the swing thread. So that all stresses and the thermal loading of the thread affects the swayability. If the thread is getting damaged and at the same time the melting of the thread is taking place, so it will result in the breakage of the thread and the swayability of that particular thread will be reduced. Then second important thing is the seam performance, the ability of the thread to produce the desired functional serviceability in the desired seam. So once the stitch formation has taken place, the seam has been produced, then it should give the desired functionality. It should last for a certain period of time. The plies of the garment or fabric are to be joined together or some attachment is being given. So that has to be serviceable for certain period of time. And this seam performance is determined from the seam efficiency. And seam efficiency is the ratio of the seam strength to the fabric strength. So the seam strength is, after seam has been formed, the strength is taken, and then what is the fabric strength? The ratio of this multiplied by 100, we can say is the seam efficiency, which is a measure of the seam performance. So these are the two main things which are required after the stitch formation has taken place and during the stitches being incorporated. That will be important. And from those particular point of view, we can say that we have to use the swing thread and design the swing thread for achieving better seam performance and good swayability. So for achieving these particular properties, the salient features which are required in the swing thread, as certain things were discussed in the definition also, that these are the salient features required in the swing thread. First one is that we require the balanced twist. There should not be any snarling in the thread. And during passage through the needle eye, it should remain straight so that the loop formation can take place, clear loop formation can take place. Then it should have adequate strength, good amount of strength is required. Similarly, the elongation levels are also moderate is the requirement. Good amount to high initial modulus is required for clear loop formation. Then lubrication, uniform lubrication has to be given so that it can easily pass through the needle eye. Basically what we say is that the swing thread should glide through the needle eye. the lubrication should be such that it should glide during its passage through the needle eye and does not get damaged. Then it should be free from knots and faults. Then it should be able to sustain high needle temperatures also. These lubricants help increase the properties of the thread so that they can sustain these particular levels of temperature. Certain lubrications also have the cooling effect during the passage of the swing thread through the needle eye. Then it should have high abrasion resistance also. It should not get abraded while passing through the needle eye also, and during its usage also. During the washing of these particular garments, it should not get damaged. Then it should have shade consistency also. Then controlled residual shrinkage should be there, so that after the stitch formation seam has been introduced, then the shrinkage should not be high. If the shrinkage of swing thread takes place, then the fabric will appear as puckered. Then it should have good dye uptake also, so that it can match the dye of the color of the fabrics. So in a nutshell, we can say that high strength and moderate elongation is required for good sewability, and the other properties are required during the seam performance after the garment has been formed. Then coming to the construction of the swing threads are generally ply, cord or cabled yarns. So this slide shows the ply and the cords also. The ply yarn has two or more single yarns twisted together. Here you can see that they are twisted together, and it may run together in the same direction or in the opposite direction also. And when these two plies are twisted together, doubled and twisted together, then we say it is the cabled yarn. And the swing thread manufacturers normally spin the single yarns in S or Z direction, but the resultant is always in the Z direction. So you can, the single plies can be made in the S direction or the Z direction, but when the cabling is being carried out at that time, the twist is always in the Z direction, because these swing machines have a false twist in the Z direction. And if you are having the resultant S twist, then the opening effect of these particular plies will take place. So the resultant has to be always Z twist. Then coming to the types of the swing threads. Now, swing threads can be divided based on the substrate which is being used, whether it is a natural or synthetic. Then we can divide them on the basis of the construction also. We can call them as the spun threads or coarse spun threads or the continuous filament threads. Then based on the finishing also, we can say to improve sewability, certain special swing threads are made, or to achieve the specific functional requirements, depending upon the finishes which are given. Then among the spun threads, we can say that you have the cotton as the most popular fiber is being used in the swing threads also, and these three finishes are available in the cotton spun threads. We have soft finished cotton threads, high quality combed cotton is used, then bleaching or dyeing is carried out, and low friction lubricant is added so that it can decrease the friction coefficient, and it can easily pass through the needle eye. Then we have the glaze finished cotton threads, soft cotton threads consolidated and protected by a special coating and polished by high-speed rotating brushes to give the thread its special glaze appearance. So this glazing effect will be provided with the help of this coating and the brushes, and this is used in heavy fabrics or button stitching and leather goods. Then we have the mercerized cotton threads, high-quality cotton threads mercerized by caustic soda treatment to improve the luster and tenacity. And they are used for general stitching, for domestic sewing and embroidery purpose also. Then in the spun threads, we have linen also for stitching footwear, tents, tarpaulins, leather goods, and nowadays in certain applications it is being replaced by the synthetic threads also. Then among the spun threads, we have polyester fiber spun threads also, which we have seen in the previous lecture also. Then we can make the blend also. The cotton and polyester can be blended together to make the swing thread, or polyester viscose blending can also be carried out to make these particular spun threads. Then we have another type, that is the core spun threads. Core spun threads have cotton wrapped polyester core, and in most of the cases we have the core as polyester fibers. And polyester core is around 60%, and the rest 40% is the staple fiber, which is the wrapper. Now, these particular swing threads have higher strength as compared to the cotton and polyester spun threads, because the core is the polyester filament and it will sustain higher loads. And now the wrapper fibers can be either polyester or they can be cotton also. Now, if it is made from polyester core and polyester wrapper fiber, then this particular swing thread will have similar characteristics when we pass it through the swing machine, through the needle eye. If the temperature increases to the melting point of the polyester fibers, then the melting of these particular threads will take place, and because of that, choking of the needle eye will take place. And if you want to avoid that particular thing, then in that case, the wrapper fibers can be replaced by cotton fibers. So these cotton fibers will be now, they will not get affected by the high needle temperatures. And at the same time, they will provide you the strengths which are comparable with the polyester filaments. Then we have the continuous filament swing threads, which can be made from the silk fibers for tailoring and embroidery on expensive garments. Or we have the monofilament threads also, which are used for overedging low quality cloths and for upholstery. They can be from polyester, made from polyester fibers or nylon fibers. Then multifilament threads are also there. Monofilaments we have seen, and then multifilaments are there. Multifilament will have multiple number of fine filaments combined together in that particular single yarn thread. They can be now bonded with low twist and bonded by a bonding agent, or they can be textured for soft and extensible applications. They are ideal for covering very extensible seams in knitwear or undergarments, swim wears, or the slacks, and well suited for serging and coverall machines. Then we have this category, which is air entanglement. They are used in jeans, slacks, or mattresses. So multifilaments entangled by air jets. Then the swing threads are they are named in terms of either text, which we have discussed in the previous lecture, and then certain ticket number is also given to the swing threads. And this ticket number is basically the single yarn English count we can take multiplied by 3 divided by the number of plies. So this will give you the ticket number, cotton ticket number of the swing thread. For example, if it is 3-ply thread of 60 text each, 60 ME each, then 60 into 3 divided by number of plies. If it is a 3-ply, then it will give you a ticket number of 60. And if it is a 4/80s, then we have 80 into 3 divided by 4. This ticket number will again be 60. So ticket number basically is not exactly giving you that what is the what is the fineness of this particular thread. So sometimes the companies are also using the text. Text value is also being used, which is a direct measure of the fineness of the threads. Then is the process for the 2, 3, or 4-ply threads. Then in this case, we can see we have the ring frames, then steaming is carried out, then we go to the cone winding, then it is cheese winding, then doubling is carried out under wet conditions, again cheese winding, and then we go to the steaming. Then steaming 2 times steaming is carried out, and then we go to the reeling and wet processing, rewinding, and then we go to the spooling and finishing, which will be able to give you a swing thread made from these particular 2, 3, 4 plies with a balanced twist balance is achieved. Then for superior threads or for embroidery threads, we have final twisted yarns which are cone winded, then warping is carried out, singeing is carried out in these cases, superior threads. We remove the hair on the surface. Then we go to the mercerizing also, warp mercerizing. Then quilling is carried out, separation into individual threads is carried out, rewinding on perforated stainless steel, and then package bleaching. Then we go to the package dyeing, colors are added, and then again it is rebound on the spools. And finally, the labeling and packing of the threads is carried out. Then the most important thing is that how to select the right swing thread for a particular application. So I'll discuss a few points on selecting the right swing thread. So first of all, we need to decide that what is the thread size which we are going to use. So that I discussed earlier also, that first of all, we need to decide that what is the fabric. We have to see that what is the fabric. And according to that particular fabric, the weight of the fabric or the construction of the fabric, whether it is a tightly woven fabric or it is what type of yarns are there in the fabric, based on that we decide the thread size. And size should be selected on the basis of this, and then we select the needle. And then the thread construction is to be decided, that which particular construction is to be used, whether the spun thread is used or the core spun is to be used, and which particular fiber is to be used, made from cotton or polyester or the other fibers. So coming to the thread size, now in this case we can see that 18 to 60 tex swing threads have been shown, which are having difference in their fineness. And because of that, the selection of the needle will also change. So we need to select the thread according to the adequate seam strength which is required, and in such a manner that it should minimize the needle holes on lightweight knits. If I select 40 tex swing thread, then accordingly the needle which I will be selecting, that will also be coarser, which will be having larger size needle eye, and accordingly the shank of the needle will also be increasing. So that particular needle, when it passes through the garment, through the fabric, then it may create needle holes. So according to the type of the fabric, we should try to select the minimum needle size, so that minimum holes are created or displacement of the threads takes place without creation of the holes. Then for a bold contrast stitch appearance on the denim fabric also, sometimes we select a particular text of the thread to give this appearance, and then to minimize the seam puckering on tightly woven fabrics. So accordingly the thread size is to be selected. Now in this case, you can see that use of 18 tex, 24 tex and 30 tex swing thread. Smaller thread size helps minimizing the yarn displacement and therefore the seam puckering. So in this case, you will see that the displacement of the yarns and the fabric is minimum because of the size of the thread and the needle. So the puckering has been minimized. But in case we use the coarser swing thread, then the puckering can be seen on these particular fabrics. Then how to check the proper size of the needle? The simplest way is that we have to pass the thread approximately 50 centimeter through the needle and hold both the ends of the thread in the vertical direction, tightly keep it straight, and see if the needle goes down. And if the needle moves like this and goes down, then we can say that it is appropriate for the type of the needle eye. For appropriate size of the swing thread has been selected, and the needle is appropriate for that particular swing thread. But if it does not go down, or if it goes very freely falls down, then in that case it is oversized. And if it does not go down, then in that case it is of smaller size. So it should revolve and come down like this after rotation with certain amount of friction. That is the simplest way to select that this is the size of the needle which is appropriate for a particular swing thread. Then we can find the guide of these particular sizes of the needle on the sites of various swing thread manufacturer. For example, this particular guidance has been taken from the Coats website. For a particular ticket number or the text, the size of the needle has been recommended. And for different applications also, the recommendations have been given they have been appropriately selected, and we can use these particular recommendations also, or we can use our technical knowledge for selecting the swing thread and the needle. Then selecting the right swing thread will also be affected by the application and the type of the fabric which we are making. For example, as I discussed earlier, that in case of the cotton, the breaking the elongation is 6%, 6.3% here. The polyesters are having 18.59, polyester cotton core spun have 25.78%. This is the range in which these particular breaking elongation values of these particular swing threads fall. So if our application requires the elongation, elastic fabric is there, then in that case we need polyester or the core spun threads. If the elongation is not required in that, then in that case we can go for the cotton threads. Then it also depends upon the type of strength which we need. The polyester core spun threads will have much higher tenacity as compared to the cotton and the polyester spun threads. So depending upon our requirements, we can choose out of these particular type of swing threads. Then the friction amount we can see, the friction is more in case of the cotton swing threads as compared to the polyester staple spun and the polyester core spun. The initial modulus, as I talked earlier, that in cotton it is higher, and this is good for the clear loop formation, whereas in these cases, polyester staple spun and the core spun, the modulus is lower. And because of that, the clear loop formation is comparatively lesser than the cotton threads. Then the other parameters for selecting these particular threads are, for example, cotton threads, they have an advantage of low elongation, as I discussed in previous slide. Then they have excellent loop formation also. They make a tighter seam, and they are not affected by the needle heat or the press or ironing of the garments later on. Then they get stronger. This is the property of the cotton fiber. So because of that, they get stronger in wet conditions. So these are the advantages when we use the cotton threads. Then the disadvantage of cotton thread is that they are weaker than polyester or nylon fibers. And depending upon our application now, we can choose if more strength is required, then we may have to go for the polyester or the core spun threads. Then they have lesser resistance to chemical degradation than the polyester or nylon threads, and they have lesser resistance to abrasion also. They can be affected by mildew and not as color fast as the polyester. Then the main application of the cotton threads are ready for dyeing garments. In all ready for dyeing garments, we can use the cotton threads, kite flying threads, embroidery threads, or tea bag threads, the coats and apron threads. The swing threads are also required inside the aprons. So for that, the cotton is more preferred. Because in that case, if the polyester is being used, the elongation will be higher, and very high elongations are not required in case of the coats and aprons. Then we have the canvas, tarpaulins, and coated fabrics. In those cases also, the cotton threads are preferred. Then for the polyester threads, they have excellent strength. So similarly, the seam strength will also be good. They are less expensive than the core spun threads. If we compare them with the core spun threads, more color fast than cotton threads. Then you have good resistance to chemical degradation, and they have excellent lubricity. They are smooth by nature, and because of that, the friction coefficient is lower. The disadvantage is that they melt when the temperature exceeds 250 degrees centigrade, and this we have discussed that the needle may reach 300 degrees of temperature in certain cases, depending upon the various swing parameters. So if the temperatures are expected to reach 300 degrees, then this particular thread is not at all recommended. Then they have low absorption. Then main application of the polyester swing threads are the blouses and shirts, mix and active wears, slacks and jeans, or children's sleepwear, embroidery, mattresses, and home furniture. So in all these particular applications, the polyester swing threads are basically used. Then coming to the core spuns, so polyester cotton core spun is there. They have an advantage of excellent sewability, because the breakage of the swing thread can be minimized in this case. But we have discussed the strength is better, and at the same time they are able to sustain the high needle temperatures also, because the wrapper fibers, the surface of the thread is of cotton fibers, and the strengths of polyester we can achieve. So they give excellent swayability with minimum breakages during the swing process, and super ply security is achieved, very good needle heat resistant, then good resistant to chemical degradation also, and excellent abrasion resistance. But they are more expensive than many other type of swing threads, and color fastness rating is relatively less than the polyester threads. Then the main application of the polyester cotton is in all garments, jeans, and the home furnishing. Then coming to poly core spun threads, in this case again the excellent strength and swayability can be achieved. Security, ply security is also there, good resistance to chemical degradation is also there, superior abrasion resistance is there, but the problem is only if the temperature increases to more than 250 degrees centigrade. Otherwise, they are also equally good as the polyester cotton threads. Then the main applications are all type of apparels, tents and home furnishings, or leather garments, shoes, and other applications. In all these cases, we can use the polyester core spun threads. Then in certain applications, the rayon threads are also used, which include the high-end visual appearance with the low cost as compared to silk. Especially in the embroidery, we use rayon threads. And in wicking fabrics for sports and hot weather applications also, the rayon threads are preferred. Availability, and the luster is almost equal to the silk fibers, softer to feel, and it makes it lay well, create a non-bulky and easy flowing fabric also, and high absorbency is there in the nature of the fiber, which creates brilliant colors also for easy dyeing of the swing threads. The disadvantage is that the color fades when exposed to sunlight, and the strength is slightly poor, and they also may be affected by binding. Then the nylon threads, they are having the advantage is strong threads, but the problem is low melting temperature, not heat resistant, and not color fast, and they may yellow over time and becomes brittle through laundering. During repeated laundering, they will become brittle, and because of that may break. So the main applications are leather footwear and other leather goods, the furniture, upholstery, automotives, or luggage and travel goods, outdoor sports equipments, and protective footwear, and filtration. Then we have certain metallic threads also, metallic threads where the outer surface is metal. So they can have a nylon core, which offers most strength. Polyester and rayon cores can also be used, but they have lower strength than the nylon. They are heat resistant, and the outer coating can be lower end metallics. They have lower end metallic swing threads have no coating. The metal foil will be there on the surface, which does not have any surface coating. So because of that, these particular swing threads, the metal foil may rub against the needle when it passes through the eye of the needle, and because of that, the shedding of these particular metallic part will take place. So discoloration and the shredding of this particular swing threads can take place. But good metallic threads, they will have a surface coating also after the metal part, which reduces the friction, and they also act as a protective layer when it is passing through the needle eye. Then the selection of the swing thread also depends upon the type of seam which we are using. The lock stitches are normally preferred. In case of lock stitch, the cotton thread must be preferred because they will give you the tighter seams, and they can provide up to 50% extensibility in the garments. And if high extension is required in these cases, then we can go for the synthetic threads, which can provide you 30 to 100% of extensibility. For cotton, the maximum extensibility is only up to 50%. And the normal synthetic threads can provide up to 60% extensibility. Using the nylon thread as the bobbin thread can extend them further by 20%. And the chain stitch applications, we cannot go with the cotton threads. In that case, we normally prefer the synthetic threads because of the higher elongation available in these particular threads. Chain stitch itself is extensible, and for that we need extensible swing thread. Then for the choice for the ready to dye garments also, garment dyeing for 100% cotton garments, then in that case soft cotton threads are the choice. And mercerized threads in this case should not be used because their dye affinity will be greater than the normal fabric and they will appear differently. Then cotton covered core threads cannot be used here because the underlying polyester filaments will not be dyed properly during the garment dye process. So they can be used for other applications where the dyed swing thread is being used. But for ready to dye garments, the polyester will not get dyed. Then choosing the right thread also depends upon the seam strength or the fabric weight and the end use application, which we have discussed to a certain extent along with the other parameters. Then for color selection also, these two things must be avoided. First one is the dichroism, which is an apparent change in the color of the color when the viewing is changed. But this particular, when we change the view, look the garment from one particular angle, the color is different. When we look from the other angle, the color is different. This normally happens with the fabrics, and it can be minimum in case of the threads because they are very small in quantity and size. But the selection of the swing thread and its color matching when is being carried out at that time, it should be appropriately selected. Then second thing is metamerism. Metamerism is change in the shade that occurs when the lighting conditions are changed. So we should select the swing thread, match the swing thread accordingly in natural light. Then is the color fastness. Swing thread must not change its color and must not stain any material adjacent to the seam. So that fastness should be available in the swing threads. So the selection of the fibers, the dyeing should be appropriately selected so that they do not bleed. Then after the selection of the swing thread, then the seam formation takes place, and the primary function of the seam is to provide the uniform stress transfer from one piece of the material to another and prevent the overall integrity of the assembly. And we have fully fashioned garments or three-dimensional knitting and thermoplastic moldings also available for making the three-dimensional textile products. But seaming with the help of the swing thread remains fundamental to the development of the textiles. And the ultrasonic welding, fusing, gluing, these are the other methods available, but they have lower strength and lower extensibility and are relatively high cost processes. So the swing process is most important process for the seam formation and the garment manufacturing. Then coming to seam performance now, the ability of the thread to produce the desired functional serviceability in the desired seam is the seam performance. And the seam performance parameters basically are the functional performance and the appearance. Two different parameters can be there in the seam performance. Appearance is important for the dress material, whereas the functional properties are required for technical applications. For example, in case of the seat belts or parachutes, we are not interested in the appearance, but we are more concerned about the functional performance of those particular materials. Whereas for the dress materials, shirts, trousers, skirts, in these cases, we are more concerned about the appearance. So the seam performance has to be seen from these two different angles, depending upon the application. And for functional performance evaluation, we have these parameters: the strength, elasticity, seam slippage, bending, or stiffness and abrasion resistance. Whereas in case of appearance, we have the seam puckering, tightness, and seam damage. I'll take up some parameters out of this. So first of all, we have the seam strength, which is the force required to break the stitching thread at the line of the stitching, which is carried out in the tensile tester under the grab test conditions with a speed of 305 millimeters per minute at a gauge length of 75 millimeters as per ASTM standard D1683. And the jaw width, which I discussed earlier morning also, that it is 50 millimeters. Normally the jaw is made in such a manner that it is the backward side is 50 millimeters and the front one is 25 millimeters as per recommendations of the standard. So the gripping takes place from this particular part, whereas the garment or the seam is of longer size, larger width. This is the larger width, and gripping is taking place only up to this particular part. So the tensile strength is tested in this manner and the seam strength is available. Now, in this particular case, what happens is that the loading of these swing threads, which are incorporated in the stitch formation, that is not being done evenly. So some of the swing threads will be getting more load and the others will be having lower loads. And Brain in 1970 gave the concept of the minimum stitch strength. So he found this particular problem, and because of that, the uneven loading of the swing threads takes place during the tensile testing, and the variable transmission of this particular strain takes place into the seam via the fabric, because the fabric threads are also playing a role during the load transmission, and because of that, the uneven loading of the swing threads stitches takes place. So he brought the concept of minimum stitch strength, and he found that the stitch which breaks first, it may not be the weakest stitch, which normally happens in our tensile testing for the threads or yarns, we can say. Normally the breakage takes place from the weakest point, whereas in this particular case, the stitch which is breaking first, that may not be the weakest stitch. So in this case, he has tested the individual stitches here, where he observed that the weakest stitches here, it breaks at the 7th stitches, which breaks, that is the 7th one with minimum strength, but the first one which is breaking, that is having more strength than this particular stitch. So he decided to change the method of tensile testing, and he cut the fabric in this manner. If we make it a strip, then in that case, the unraveling of the seam starts from these particular edges. So he kept this particular fabric of wider width, but the cutting of the fabric from these particular parts was carried out so that the gripping can be carried out only up to 50 millimeters, 2 inches. And these particular threads are also playing the role during the breakage of during the loading. So they are restricting the unraveling of the thread, which may occur in case of the strip testing. And he found that the strength in this case now is proportional to the seam length. The width which is being gripped, that is the seam length. So the strength of the seam is now proportional to the length of the seam. And therefore, the seam strength can be quoted in terms of the values, that is the strength per unit length. You can say that it is newtons per inches or newtons per stitch. Normally, for the fabric testing also, we do the same thing. We test it maybe as a strip testing in 25 millimeters, but later on we can multiply it by 40, and we can quote the value as the strength per meter. So that particular thing was not possible in case of the seam strength, which he invented by cutting and testing in this way. Now, the strength of the seam can also be quoted in terms of the length of the seam or the width of the test. And then the seam failure is also to be noted, when we are comparing the seam efficiency or the performance of different seams, then at that time the type of failure which is taking place, that is also important. There can be four different type of failures which may take place. First one is the contracting of the seam is taking place, followed by breaking of the sewing thread without the damaging of the fabric. This one is the first one. Seam is contracted and the sewing threads break without damaging the fabric. Second case is the seam slippage is occurring, whereas the seam remains intact, but the yarns of the fabric are pulled out when the loading is carried out. So in this case, we can say that the sewing thread is stronger and the fabric itself is weaker, the yarns are pulled out. And third one is sewing thread gets ruptured and leaving the holes in the fabric due to the yarn slippage. Slippage of the yarns is also taking place, but the sewing thread is getting ruptured. And the last one is that the fabric is getting damaged and the sewing thread stitch line remains intact. There is no damage to the sewing threads. The ideal one is the first one, which should normally occur. The sewing threads stitches should break without damaging the fabric. And if this particular thing is occurring, or this one is occurring, or this one is occurring, that means the selection of the sewing thread for the stitch formation is not appropriate. Sewing thread in this case, we can clearly say is much stronger than the than the fabric. And in this case, the sewing efficiency will also be low, because in this case, your fabric is having very low strength and seam strength will be higher. Whereas in this case, the seam strength will be lower, but the fabric strength will be high. So when comparing the performance of different fabrics, garments, seams, then in those cases, the type of the failure should also be noted down. And they can be compared only when they have similar type of failure. Then the type of sewing thread which is to be selected for the application and the required seam strength, that will depend upon the application, that how much stresses are normally expected from that particular fabric, and accordingly the sewing thread should be selected. For example, in this case, we can see that for severe application, the military combat forces, very high seam strengths may be required, which is 14,900 newtons per meter. Whereas for the normal applications, we can have this only in the range of 6,000 to 7,000 newtons per meter. For very high military combat applications, severe applications, the strengths may go up to this particular. But otherwise, they may range only to 6,000 to 7,000 newtons per meter. And for these particular applications, accordingly, the sewing thread has to be appropriately selected. Then seam efficiency I have already discussed. The capacity of the material to carry out the seam strength divided by the fabric strength. And for specific applications, it should be in the range of 80%. Because if it is more than that means the fabric seam strength is high and the fabric is weaker. If it goes more than 100, then in that case, seam is not failing and the fabric will fail. So they are normally in the range of 80%. Efficiencies in the range of 60 to 80 can be easily achieved when you go for sewing. Then these are the main factors which affect the seam strength, the sewing thread strength, the fiber type, thread construction, the thread size, and the thread finish. This we have discussed in the morning also to a certain extent. Then the type of seam which is to be selected, the type of stitch, and the number of stitches per unit length, stitch density. Then fabric weight and thickness, fiber content, and the fabric construction, they are also affecting the seam strength. The plain weave will have higher seam strength in both the directions than the twill due to the higher number of interlacements per unit length. Then the pattern placement and the seam direction, the propensity of the yarns in the seam to shift or pull out of the seam. So these factors will have influence on the seam strength. This we discussed in the morning, that this is the estimation which can be carried out. And the loop strength we discussed. Then is the seam extensibility and recovery, another parameter in the seam performance. To accommodate the body movement, 25% to 30% extension is needed for normal comfortable clothing. And for sports wears, we can say we need 40 to 60% extension. And extensibility more than 60% is not normally required except in special applications like pantyhose. And extensibility of seam should match the extensibility of the fabric. Otherwise, the seam thread breakage may take place. So accordingly, the stitch type and the swing thread has to be selected. Then woven fabric structures limit the fabric extension to less than 10% at low loads, and weft knitted structures extend by 80 to 100%. And thus for woven fabrics, all seam structures are more extensible than the substrate, while for knitted fabrics, we can say it is the reverse. Knitted fabric itself is more extensible, but when we put stitches, they are limited to certain extent. So depending upon the application and the type of material, the swing thread and the type of stitches are to be selected. Then the extensibility and recovery are affected by these particular parameters. That is the swing thread linear density, stitch density, the initial modulus, and the type of stitch. Then the strain at break, here we can see the swing thread linear density. As the linear density is increasing, the strain is also increasing. Extensibility is also increasing as the text is increasing. And in a study on ISO 301, 401, 504 seams on knitted fabric, it is observed that 504 seams have maximum extensibility, whereas 301 and 401, they have only 80% of extensibility. Then the next performance parameter is seam slippage. Now a partial or complete loss of the seam integrity, which is manifested by the yarn slippage parallel to the stitch line, which we can see here, that is known as the seam slippage. And it is caused by the pulling of the yarns in the fabric from the seam when strain is applied. And we can measure it, determined by calculating the difference in the extensibility of the fabric and the extensibility of the seam as per the standards. So the testing which we did for seam strength testing, same testing, only the difference between the seam elongation and the fabric elongation, that will give you the seam slippage. Then coming to the drape and bending part of the seams, the investigation of the impact of the seam on fabric drape performance helps in understanding the valuation and appearance of the final garment. The drape and bending behavior of fabric is affected by the seaming process when the combining of the fabric parts is being carried out, because the seamed part will be bending comparatively less as compared to the unseamed part. As compared to the fabric, they will be, after stitching, they will be bending to lesser extent. So their drape and bending properties will be affected. Now, when talking about the bending axis for the seams, they can be of 4 different types with reference to the bending axis. We can have the horizontal seams when the seams are parallel to the bending axis. Now, in these cases, the bending axis is this and the seam has been applied here in this case. Then vertical seams can also be there. The bending axis is horizontal, whereas the seam is vertical. Then radial seams, seams which are sewn across the circular specimen through the center. And for circular seams which are sewn around a circular specimen with certain radius from the specimen center, these particular seams are circular. Now, when comparing the drape and bending of these particular type of seams, then we can say that the horizontal and vertical seams, for them, the bending length is an appropriate method of measuring the understanding the bending behavior of these particular type of seams, because in this case you can see how much length is bending for the vertical and the horizontal seams. But when coming to the radial or the circular seams, then in that case, either the drape coefficient is required or we may have to go for the drape profiles. For these particular type of circular or radial seams, the bending length cannot be used to give you the appropriate understanding of the bending behavior. And in these cases, now the radial seams, the drape coefficient will be affected by the number of radial seams. If the number of radial seams increase, then the drape coefficient will also increase. Drape profile will also be affected with the addition of the radial seams. And if there are more seams, then they will give more stable drape profile. The loads can be fixed, they can become stable. And in case of the circular seams, now the drape coefficient will be affected by the position of the seam. And it will be highest when the seam is located just near the edge of the pedestal when the testing is being carried out. More closer to the center it is, it will be giving more stiffness, more drape coefficient will be achieved. If the seam is moved outwards from the pedestal, then it will drop quickly and the drape coefficient will also decrease. And in these cases, the drape profile will be entirely different in circular seams and the loads will not be stable, which were there in this case. We can fix the loads like in case of a skirt, but in these cases, the loads cannot be stable. Then the last parameter is the seam puckering. The puckering is the ridge or the wrinkle or corrugation of the material, or a number of small wrinkles running across and into one another, which appear during the swaying of two pieces of the fabric. And it occurs when the seam contractive forces exceed the fabric buckling resistance. They will downgrade the appearance of the final product and they will be more prominent in case of the lightweight fabrics. And for the evaluation of the puckering, we have this subjective method, AATCC88B. Photographic replicas are there with a rating of 5 to 1. 5 means low puckering and 1 is high. Same replicas are available for the double needle seams also from 5 to 1. But for objective evaluation, we have the other methods, which include one wrinklometer, which is basically specifically designed for measuring the wrinkles on the fabric. Same instrument can be used for evaluating the puckering also. It has a moving platform and a variable speed motor and a counterbalanced probe linked to a shutter. There is a light source also and a photovoltaic cell and a signal recorder. So this probe is moved over the surface of the wrinkles and we can measure the amplitude and the wavelength of these particular puckers on the wrinkles on the surface of the seam. So pucker amplitude and pucker wavelength are the two parameters which can be used from this particular trace. Then another objective evaluation method is the laser scanning method. Now in this case, the laser beam is guided onto the fabric surface and the reflectance is used as a measure of the wrinkles which appear at different distances. So in this case, now you can see this is the appearance on the fabric which can be seen like this particular profile. And from this, we have these different parameters which can be calculated. Wrinkle roughness can be calculated, wrinkle sharpness can be calculated, or the wrinkle density can be calculated. Based on the average roughness or the root mean square roughness can be taken, or the average of the 10 points, 5 peaks and 5 lowest valleys. That distance can be averaged out and the measure can be taken on puckering. Then another method which has been devised, which has been invented in Hong Kong Polytechnic University, the professor who has designed this particular method with a lighting box to illuminate the samples from 4 different directions. And the light source goes like this. And from here you can see this is the light source, and the layering is taking place. Image is taken on this particular surface. And then from different directions, the layer can be taken, the images can be taken with the same geometry, same pixel levels, and then they can be converted into the gray levels from 0 to 255. And this is how the gray levels can be seen, and then the pucker can be seen on the fabric as a profile. Then these are the main parameters which are there, affect the puckering, the properties of the swing thread, properties of the fabric, the seam construction, swing thread tension, then compatibility of the swing thread needle and the fabric. And there are different types of pucker which can be seen. First of all, we have the tension pucker, which occurs when the overstretched swing thread is used. Stretching of the swing thread tension level is high, you can say, and then after the stitching has taken place, it shrinks to its original length, and therefore gathers the fabric along the line of the seam to make the tension puckers. And sometimes the size which is applied on the cotton swing threads, that is on the cotton fabrics, that also maintains the seam flat initially. But once the washing is carried out, then that particular size from the cotton yarns is removed, and because of that, the fabric will start puckering. Then this particular tension pucker is more pronounced in case of the synthetic threads because of their extensibility, higher values of extensibility. 18 to 25% extension is possible. So under tension, they will extend, but later on they will try to go back to their original position after the seam formation. And because of that, the tension puckers can be seen. So the main causes of tension puckers are excessive thread tensions, incorrect thread balances. One particular thread is having higher tension and the second one is having lower tension. Then tightly woven bobbin threads, excessive stitch length if it is used, then in that case also the tension pucker is possible. And the identification of the tension pucker is possible by cutting both the top and bottom threads of all stitches for a few centimeters of the seam without distorting the thread loops in the fabric. And once these particular threads have been cut, then the pucker will be relieved. If it is caused because of the tension pucker, then this pucker will get relieved. But if it is not relieved, then it may be because of certain other reason. Then the remedies for tension pucker include reduce the tension which has been applied to the binding of the bobbin thread, and use the minimum needle thread tension as I discussed earlier. Start with the bobbin thread. Minimum bobbin thread tension should be first fixed. Then accordingly, the needle thread tension for balancing the stitch should be given. Then the swing thread should be with low friction coefficient. Then using the swing thread with even unwinding tensions, and using the swing threads which possess low elongation or high initial modulus as in case of the cotton threads, and ensure correct swing machine feed timing. Then second is the feed pucker. The differential feeding of the two fabrics during the swing will lead to the feed pucker. In the morning session, we discussed the various feeding elements, types of feeding we discussed in the morning. So in that case, if there is a common drop feed mechanism is normally applied, which grips the fabric from the underside. And if they are not appropriately working, then they will lead to the feed pucker. And the top layer transport normally takes by friction in most of the common machines, and because of that, these feed pucker problems may occur. So in case the fabric is having very low, very smooth and extensible, then in those cases we can apply those type of differential feeding systems and increase or decrease the feed. So this pucker may also be seen when the pressure of the pressure foot is also increased. Pressure foot has to be also adjusted at the lowest pressure. For increasing the gripping, if we increase the pressure of the pressure foot, then again the feed pucker problem may occur. The remedies are pressure of the pressure foot should be minimum. The lift of the feed dog is to be adjusted so that the teeth protrude only slightly above the stitch plate, that they simply touch the fabric, and manually guide the fabric under tension both in the front and behind the needle. And the identification of the feed pucker may take place with the help of this. Make two perpendicular cut across the seam seam where the pucker fabric is there, and remove the threads in the seam and see if the two plies are of equal length. So if the differential feed is there, one particular ply of the fabric will be longer and the second one will be shorter. So in that case, you can identify that this particular pucker is taking place because of the feed pucker. If they are of equal length, then this may be because of certain other reason. Then we have the displacement pucker also, which we discussed in the morning also. Here we can see the displacement of the yarns taking place. Here we can see easily the displacement is taking place. So in case this displacement of the fabric yarns is affected, then in that case, the displacement pucker can be seen. Stitching along a straight line will distort and stretch the adjacent fabric yarns. This is in case of the jammed fabric, structurally jammed fabric or very tightly woven fabric is there. In those cases, we can see these type of problems. Otherwise, in most of the cases, the easily displacement of these particular threads is taking place. In case it is jammed, then these displacements will not be taking place. So they will be pulling the other threads, and because of that, the appearance will be in the form of the pucker. Then the coarse fabrics of natural fibers are less likely to have displacement pucker, and tightly woven synthetics, delicate microfiber fabrics have higher displacement pucker. So the appropriate selection of the sewing thread and the needle is again important to avoid the displacement pucker also. Use the finer size of the needle and the thread size. And if this problem still persists, then we can say that we may have to go for the stitching in the bias direction. Even if after doing everything, we still find that the displacement pucker is occurring, then there is no remedy for that particular fabric. We have to stitch it in the bias direction. Or we can try reducing the stitch density also, or avoid multiple rows of the stitching, or the chain stitch or an overhead stitch. They will produce less jamming of this particular type of problem. Then identification can be carried out by cut and remove the stitches in a short length of the seam. After first checking for the tension pucker, that if it does not make off the tension pucker, if both the faces of the seam revert to a smooth surface, then structural jamming has taken place. Then is the shrinkage pucker. It occurs when one of the components sewn into the seam shrinks at a different rate than the other component. So that is the taking place after the laundering. Then use synthetic threads with low wet shrinkage properties. That is the remedy, and ensure that all components of the assembly are also compatible. Then there can be certain problems of the seam graining also for the appearance of the fabric. That is the graining is the or the gap is the unwanted opening of the seam, which reveals the sewing thread spanning that particular gap. The sewing thread is now clearly visible over the surface. So this is seam graining or gaping, and it occurs when a seam is subjected to a transverse load and may be described as a separation of the interface line between the two sewn fabrics. Then the chain stitch is more prone to gaping as compared to the lock stitch, and low tension in the needle thread leads to graining when two ends of the cloth are pulled outwards. Then if the tension is low in the needle thread, then this problem may occur. So seam graining increases with decreased stitch density and increased thread extensibility. If the thread is also extensible, then in that case again we can see this type of problem. and the seam graining is lower in case of the knitted fabrics. So this is all about the seam performance. Any questions if you have?
Have any questions to participant? You can ask a questions to Dr. Vinay Midha. I am audible to all of you.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So, have any questions for Dr. Vinay Midha?
Sir, can you please share this PPT to us?
Yeah, PPT we will share. Yeah, this will be shared. That is not a problem.
Yes, sir.
So, after the completion of the course, we will share the PPT through this Google Drive to all of you. Any
Okay,
questions?
sir.
Any questions?
Miss Kavita is asking about the instrument. Which instrument you are asking about?
A ringlometer, ringlometer.
It is not mentioned anywhere. It's a ringlometer. Kavita is there?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Dr. Praveen Uke from DKT College, Ichalkaranji, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to have one with the slides when you have mentioned it is related to the effect of the seams on that drape which you have mentioned. In that case, we are using certainly the seam allowances for the manufacturing of the garment. So does it make any effect on the garment if you are using certainly the seam allowances? Because it's basically like with the seam allowances, if I'm using the front placket, then we are having certainly the seam allowances. So what will be the effect of that as far as the garment part is concerned on the drape of the fabric?
Yeah, even if you are giving seam allowance, even then the drape of or bending of these particular garments will be different. Because what I have mentioned here is that it depends upon, for example, in which direction the bending is required.
Yeah.
For example, whether it is the horizontal or it is horizontal seam or it is vertical seam. For example, in this case, now you can see if the bending is now taking place in the same direction, then the bending behavior will be different. And if the bending axis is different and the seam is in the different direction, then the bending behavior will be different.
Okay,
so
sir.
It depends upon the application and the type of the seam which has been incorporated and what is the bending axis. Well, if the seam allowances are given, you can see that even in your trousers or any particular fabric, any particular garment, the bending behavior from that particular seam, it will be different than the fabric.
Okay, sir. So does it make sense like we have to go for the drape and the bending measurement also, like bending length?
No, if the bending requirement is, for example, if the application is in the case of if the bending is taking place in the horizontal or vertical direction,
Okay,
then
sir.
then the bending length is sufficient. That can give you the sufficient idea that how the bending is taking place.
Okay, sir.
But if the bending is taking place, if the seam is, for example, circular or it is the radial seam has been applied, then in that case, these particular bending length is of no use.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, got my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
For the radial seam and circular seams, the bending length has no meaning.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, okay.
In those cases, we should go for either the drape coefficient or the profile.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions? So, thank you, Dr. Vinamida, for nice presentation on this.
Sir, sorry to interrupt in between. Sir, I have a query. Sir,
Yeah.
like as you have given many parameters like where which seam should be used or how seam is going is affected. Sir, in context of different weave, is there any specification like for which weave, which type of sewing thread will be suitable or which stitch will be suitable?
Okay, speaking. Na?
No, for the for a particular weave, there is no recommendation that a particular stitch has to be used. It is not like that. Only the strength can be different. Seam strength can be different in case of the plain or twill fabrics or in other cases. But otherwise, it is not. There is no such recommendation that for a particular weave we have to go for this particular stitch. It is only the extensibility and the other parameters which we have to see, but weave does not have any effect.
Sir, is there anything for yarn content, fabric yarn content?
Yeah, fabric yarn content as such, there is no recommendation, but only tightness we have to see, how tight the construction is. How tight is the construction, and for that one particular parameter which is normally used is the weight, that is GSM.
Okay, sir.
From that we can have an idea that how tight the construction is, and accordingly the type of sewing thread and the needles are to be selected.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
More question? Any more question? No. So thank you, Dr. Vinay Midaji, for your presentation on this swing thread and its performance, especially seam quality and especially puckering and everything of the seam defects. So thank you, Dr. Midda, for my very good presentation, and I hope our participants are must getting many things from this presentation and getting the good idea about the quality of seams and quality of swing threads in order to make a good quality of apparels. So thanks to all, and I would like to announce the closing of this third session, and we will meet at this 9:30 tomorrow at 9:30 for third day of the course and first session of the course. So thanks to all. Have a nice day.
Thanks to you, sir, also for coordinating so nicely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.